whole point of there's no knowledge that's in abstraction. So just feel free to unmute yourself whenever you want to interject or make a comment or anything or add something. Um, so not knowledge, there's no knowledge that's in abstraction. Networking isn't in abstraction. Server technologies, Microsoft servers, Linux servers, Unix servers, Mac servers, they are not in abstraction. Um, Virtualization technologies are not in abstraction. So at some point, all this work together or combine together at some point. And it's like one of the things that happen, especially when one starts in IT and then one is when you go for training courses and all that. Because we learn and we get all these different knowledges, or sorry, not knowledges, that's that's the wrong word. All these different knowledge, we get them in abstraction. So we get knowledge about virtualization and nothing but virtualization. And then we get knowledge about networking, but nothing but networking. And then we get knowledge about servers, but nothing but servers. And then usually I found out that, especially for people who are just getting into IT, not for us, like we've been in IT for a while now, but for people who are just getting into IT, they may all of a sudden they get to start working in the enterprise and they get hit um, they get hit by a massive shock because now it's like, okay, I have to do set up this server, um, this service using this server technology. But then the other thing that hits them is, okay, what firewall rules will I need? It's like, okay, hold on, I thought I'm just doing server here. All of a sudden, I'm getting thrown all these networking technologies and all this stuff are coming at me. And all like the one you mentioned about storage, all this storage stuff and server stuff, networking stuff and virtualization stuff, all this stuff are coming at me. It was one of the reasons why I put the poll up on the community page to ask, would you rather know at least a few of many technologies, or would you rather specialize in just a few technologies? And we had like mixed answer. I think so far what's still leading is most people prefer to be a specialist in a few technologies than know multiple technologies and all that. And there's an advantage to both and all that. I'm not sure what your thoughts is about that. Would you rather know multiple technologies, or would you rather know a few and specialize in a few? Can unmute yourself, Benji. Hello, Benji. Are you still there? Hello? Hello? You may need to unmute yourself. Hello? 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 I can't hear you anymore. Let's see. I can't hear you anymore. Can you still hear me, Benji? Okay. Okay, yeah. Okay, but no mics and all that. Okay. So yeah. So coming from like that whole standpoint of there's no knowledge in abstraction, all this different knowledge have to be put together at some point. It's one of the reasons why whenever I do like my lab, I prefer when possible. For example, if I'm doing studies for like the MCSE stuff, even for the SCCM stuff, I prefer not just to use, for example, like the other my other lab I have like Hyper-V. I prefer not just to use that. I prefer to set them up within GNS3. And the reason for that is I always want to keep myself in a constant state of understanding that even though I'm learning SCCM, this is not an abstraction to other things. Yeah, yeah, no problem. Thanks. So even though I'm learning SCCM, this is not an abstraction to other things. This combines with a lot of other things, a lot of other technologies in the enterprise. And to keep myself in that awareness, I prefer to do it using this method. And one of the things that I found out is that, especially with the new GNS2, is that there's a lot of advantages and benefits that we can get from it for using it whenever we're doing our labs for VMware or for storage. So I know most people in many enterprises, you find out, they have a VMware virtual infrastructure, Hyper-V infrastructure, then they have a storage platform of maybe EMC or NetApp or whatever enterprise technologies. And the good thing about using this method is for majority of those, you can bring them all together. And they use maybe Cisco technologies for like their switching or routing or Juniper or whatever. So with GNS3, you can have Cisco, Juniper, all these different networking platforms there. You can have any kind of server technology that you need because it works well with VirtualBox. So it says all of CPT guys are using VIRL on Packet.net now can do larger switching and routing topologies. A specialized desktop guy for yeah. So you're right. So I remember we had this conversation about yeah, it's true that if you're focusing on networking again, it's kind of like so um, different advantages. You're focusing mainly on server technologies, and that's what you're doing. You probably want to like have your labs on VMware Workstation, VirtualBox, Hyper-V, and just focus on that. Networking is outside the window. You're just focused on you know getting the server technology, understanding the server technologies. Um, Same thing with networking. If you're just gonna be focused on I don't really care about the servers now. I just care about the switches and the routers and my topologies. That's what I care about. Definitely, VIRL, you know, different cloud network learning platforms that you can use, that you can have better topologies and bigger topologies. But then when it comes to like the integration, that's where I like to use GNS2 because for me, I've seen that with GNS3, I can integrate all this together. And one of the things I was hoping to do is to be able to like at least demo a part of that. So one thing that I remember mentioning in the past is that GNS3 works well with VirtualBox. I mean, the new GNS3, it works with VMware ESX, and and just straight away you can see where the advantage is there. So yeah, I did not want to use VMware Pro during 7410, so I made my own home a lab and used view servers. Now I do have VMware Workstation Pro and I have two HP servers. Yeah, absolutely, Ben. One other advantage is like you mentioned, like okay, in a case of um, it could even save like the space. For example, instead of me getting to get multiple servers and routers and switches, majority of any integration I need to do, I can do from within here. And just to show an example of that is okay. Um, Here's my VirtualBox. I have VirtualBox installed on this machine. It's completely free. I have VMGNS3 installed on this machine. It's completely free. I don't need to use VMware Workstation. I have license for it because I was their student and I took their course and they gave me this license that I can use for 1 year or whatever. So I've got that. But not everybody has like VMware Workstation Pro and all that. But then all you need is you have your VirtualBox platform, you have your GNS3 platform, which is completely free, and I can do any integration I need to do here. So here, if I go here, I have my Cisco routers and switches, and I've got I've got my Cisco routers and switches, and I have and if I go on the here on the VirtualBox, so I have my domain controller, my client. Look at this. So I have my NetApp simulators. So these are NetApp devices that are running, the NetApp code, NetApp data on tap code. And these are ESX servers, which are running within VirtualBox. And I can integrate all these, I can integrate them straight into GNS3 and have a proper integrated platform where I have real Cisco iOS running. I have real Microsoft servers running. I have real NetApp storage running. I have real VMware infrastructure running. So it's kind of like a full enterprise. So and I can do all the things that you're referring to, like LACP. I can have a proper network, full-blown enterprise network without the hardware. So I don't need the hardware for that anymore. I can have a full-blown one and practice whatever I need to practice from within here. And just to give like an illustration of that. So for example, now if I'll bring up um, Paint and just show you an example of um, so this is like one of the just a lab that I drew up for practicing NetApp. So here I've got two servers there. So this is just a normal server. It doesn't matter what service is on it. So VirtualBox is as powerful as VMware Workstation Pro now, minus the vSwitches. So you use minus the vSwitches. Let me see. So VirtualBox is as powerful as VMware Workstation Pro now, minus vSwitches. So use GNS3. Yeah, I'll say VirtualBox definitely as powerful, and then it integrates really, really well with a lot of other products like GNS3. It does integrate well with GNS3. So if I bring up this one again, so this is my own machine. Let's go back to this server. So this is ESXi running under this VirtualBox machine. This is the real NetApp simulator running under this VirtualBox machine. And these are Macs, or this is Mac OS X running under this VirtualBox machine. So there may be a few acts that you may need to do, but once you can get it running in anything you can get running in VirtualBox, which is a lot of stuff now, you can integrate that with GNS3 and have like complete integration and complete enterprise lab. So to give an illustration, so bringing back the paint here. So think of I want to recreate this lab, which is something similar to what most enterprises we have. So these are my NetApp boxes. So storage boxes. So I have this storage box, I have this storage box here. So let's call this NetApp 1 and let's call this NetApp 2. So these are two enterprise storage um, devices or appliances in a cluster. So I have this, and at the same time I can have VMware ESXi also. So if I want a cluster, I can have multiple, which is the case here in my lab here. So let's say this is ESXi 1. Let's call this ESXi 2. Or actually, we could just use this two. So this two could be my virtual platform. So let's say this is running my VMware vSphere 6, ESXi 6, and ESXi 2, and I can get rid of this one. So this is these are my two virtual hosts. These are my two NetApp appliances that forms a cluster, and I'm going to be using this in a cluster also. And then I can have a real Cisco switch here, which is what you have in your enterprise. And then I have real Cisco switches here. So these are like more Cisco data center level, Cisco Nexus. So Cisco data center level devices or Cisco data center level switches. It doesn't matter even if it's Juniper, you can use them within GNS3. So data center level devices here and connected the same way you have them connected in the enterprise, where I have these two data center level switches connecting to my storage infrastructure and to my virtualization infrastructure. So in this case, I've separated out the networks. So I have one network for two storage networks. This one is separate, just NetApp stuff, which we're not talking about today. And then for management, so I have a normal Cisco access layer switch for management. So all the servers, of course, they connect into the management switch. My client also maybe somehow have routing. My client is able to connect to the management switch. So this is just one that I'm just gonna be using for management. Most people separate out like because again the switching platform can be different what you're using for the backend infrastructure, like every virtualization stuff and every storage stuff, won't be the same kind of switch that you're going to be using to connect your users to the network. So the same kind of switch that connects devices, um, it's not the same kind of switch that you use to connect users to the network. So the device or the backbone infrastructure level switches, those are like for Cisco range, they're called like the Cisco Nexus and all that. And then you have like the NetApp infrastructure connecting into your storage infrastructure. You have two connections for each. One connect exactly, yeah, 10G FCOE exactly. Exactly, Ben. So you have the same thing here. So imagine, so you got your ESXi here connecting to this one, and your ESXi connecting this one. So you probably will have two connections coming out of this. So actually, there's two connections. So storage one, storage two, and that's all coming out from this ESXi box. So one is connecting to the one at the top, the other one is connecting to the one at the bottom, and that way, you're building the same thing you have in an enterprise to achieve failover, so that in case one of the switches fail, your ESXi servers are still able to operate and they're still able to talk via this other switch to your NetApp infrastructure. If this NetApp storage device were to fail, this other one can take over the load of this one and still be able to pass the information so that at whatever layer, whether this host were to fail, this other host takes over that workload and carries on with the whole workload so that at the virtualization layer, storage layer, network layer, you have full redundancy, except something takes out the old data center, which now becomes like a disaster recovery scenario and all that. But then the joy of that is being able to reproduce this scenario that we're seeing here. Yeah, my 2416 can cluster back into. Yeah, nice. Yeah. So that's absolutely right, Ben. So with this one though, the advantage of this one is that this one is entirely virtual. So all you need is a really powerful machine. Really, really, really powerful machine. Like if I would say yeah. So my recommendation, for example, the machine I'm using here, it's it's a normal desktop machine. It's not like a huge server. So this one, so I have servers also, which I'm thinking I'll probably get rid of them and just get just a single powerful machine instead. i5 24 gig or I say, yeah, I think yours that will absolutely be enough to do this because mine is not that different from that. So if I go under my machine, so it's just AMD um, 8 core processor with 32 gig of RAM, and that's it. And just it's two hard drives. One of them is SSD, one of them is just normal spinning disk. So, and this is sufficient because again, remember that most of the storage that you're going to be using here, they're going to be team provisioned. And then the other thing with that is you also have something in Windows Server 2012 and 2012 out2 called data deduplication, which can save you like a lot of storage in your lab environment. Like I ran it on my other lab environment and it saved me almost half the space because majority of the servers you're just cloning them and spinning them up. FSRM, yeah, I mean it's a really good one. The data deduplication in Windows Server 2012 out, it's really really good. I mean just cleared like almost half of the disk space on my labs and just freed that up for me. So that's like a really really good one and all that. So 411, now I have my VMware clusters working. Ah, okay. Yeah. So yeah, so that's like the benefit of that. So let's see how that works. So let's try to bring like this kind of infrastructure. Let's try to recreate this in here. So if I go first, I'll get the um, NetApp devices. So in GNS3, since it integrates with VirtualBox, if I go under Edit Preferences and I go under VirtualBox VMs, I can go new. It's going to scan for all the virtual machines that I have in VirtualBox. So I can do the same thing with VMware. But the reason why I'm using this VirtualBox is because I know not everyone, because VMware Pro is a paid product, so not everyone can will pay for that. So yeah, so again, I've already just number one set up the machines that you want, whether ESX, NetApp, Microsoft servers, Linux servers, Mac devices, anything, once you set them up there in VirtualBox, then just import them into GNS3 and you're good to go. So for example, let's import the two NetApp devices that we have here. If I go finish, so I've added that now. I can go edit it and it's picked up the RAM that I have configured, which is 6 gig of RAM. I can go on the network and I want 8 adapters in this case. Go 8 adapters and set this to server adapters and go OK. Now I have the first NetApp brought into GNS3. I can go new again, and basically I just have to do the same thing for the other devices. So again, what we're trying to recreate is this one. So bring in the NetApp and devices. We bring in the ESX host. So let's go for the second NetApp device. Finish new. And then the advantage of this is, in a virtual platform, you can do almost anything. You can it's basically you can sincerely do almost anything that you need to do in an enterprise on a single box, which is one of the reasons why I'm considering just getting rid of my physical servers and just going for maybe one tower server that has maybe 124 gig of RAM and all SSD like yours, and just go for that one and get rid of all the other two separate servers and stuff that I have. So I'll bring in the ESX servers here in this case too. So bring in ESX1 and bring in the second ESX server also. And then I'll bring in my servers too. So I'll bring in one domain controller. So ESX2, bring that in. Bring in my domain controller and my client. So in this case, I have the ESX servers have 5 gig of RAM each. The NetApp appliances have 6 gig of RAM each. So that's 12 plus 10. So that's 22 out of 32. So there's 10 gig left. And that will still work for you because you've got SSD. You can lower the amount of RAM that you allocate to the devices. So let's bring in the domain controller and let's bring in the client, and I'll just edit them to what I want. So come on, so client, yeah, and then yeah, so I'll just edit this because I want 8 adapters on each of those. So, and I want the adapter to be server level adapters, which is that, and I want this to be 8. I go okay. Now I'll do the same thing for this one also. So I want the adapter numbers to be 8, and I want this to be server H245. And go okay. And do the same thing for this, which is server. I want 8 adapters on there. I go okay. And I have domain controller, which just needs one adapter each is okay for this. I can click apply, okay. And then the other thing is once I had them that way, then I can bring them into my topology. So I can go, so again, back to what our diagram looks like. We have the NetApp appliances, we have the ESX host brought in. So these ones are within GNS3. So that's where all this integration comes in, and it's just on a single box. We have a client in, we have another domain controller that will provide DNS and all that. So I can just go and say, okay, my first NetApp device, bring that one into GNS3. It's gonna start it, it's gonna get it ready. Yep, and that's ready. Bring the second NetApp appliance in. Bring the ESX1 in. Bring ESX2 in. Bring my domain controller in. Bring my client in. and then bring my Cisco devices in. So in this case, let's just say, so I could go on and set up this layer 2, layer 3 IOU, which will mimic like real switches and all that. But I'll just use this one temporarily for now and go one switch, one of these, and one of these. And then I can close these. And then, yeah, I just try to build again. What we're trying to build is we're just trying to build out this topology. And do you see the beauty of this if I go NetApp? So here's one other thing that, this is just a fun thing to do. It's not something that's, well, one of the fun things is that I can I can, for example, change the symbol. I can use a custom symbol. In this case, I have one custom symbol for NetApp. Which just makes your diagram look a bit much pretty and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, just makes diagram looks a bit more pretty. Got the NetApp box here, and I do the same thing for this one. Change the symbol. Have a NetApp symbol here. Show, and if I want, I can bring in, another custom symbol for my servers, which just make it look like, actually we could just go. I could just go download one. Let me just go download one for
Can you hear me, David?
yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, I plugged in a mic into my desktop, so.
Nice. And that mic is really clear. That's like really, really, I can hear your voice really clearly.
It's actually the Rock Band Xbox 360 mic.
Wow, it's extremely clear. Can hear
Yeah,
you
we had the
very
Rock
clearly.
Band video game for a long time, and then I never had a mic for my computer, so I bought a professional microphone stand for it, set on my desk for gaming.
Yep. Wow. Nice. Nice. So if I go VMware server PNG, yeah, uh, VMware server dot. Is it PNG? Not PNG. Is it PNG? Yeah, whatever. So we can set this to whatever and just change it back later. So for example, I can go select the two of them and change their symbol. And there's a lot of different symbols I can use to show. Yeah, I'll just select servers. It's good enough. SX1, SX2. Actually, I'll make this one server symbol also. Yeah, that's good enough for me. And again, back to the topology that we're building. In this case, we have one Cisco access switch and two backend switches that connects the infrastructure. So this one is for access. I can call this, change this name, access switch 1. Let's go change this name, access switch 1, and change the symbol to just a normal access switch. Just a normal Ethernet switch. And can have this too. And I can set this to. So they're not, these ones are not necessarily Nexus switches, but I can use Nexus switches in GNS3 also. So if I go change the host name and I say So switch one config. So configure. Change the host name. Name source switch two and configure. So actually I can go. Okay, here we go. I should probably just use this one. Let's get rid of this too. Let's bring just this one. The name. Okay. And I have main controller and client here at the top. So here's my virtualization layer. Here's the access layer. And here's the core infrastructure layer. And then the interesting thing is I can go, for example, here's like where the advantage of GNS3 comes in again. With the way it's going to handle this is that I could go connect this guy and go, okay, start from um, 3, okay, fast Ethernet 2.0, connect that to NetApp 123, probably in use, so Ethernet 3. It's that GNS3 actually takes over that network adapter that I've connected it to, and it takes over the link between this device and this device. And you say, okay, what does that mean? What advantage does that give? Is that the advantage that it gives is that all the technologies that you talked about, like for example the LACP, VLAN technologies, can work between this real Cisco device and this real NetApp device. All those technologies can work between them. I could fail over, practice all of that within this, because this adapter has been taken over by GNS3. So just the advantage of the collaboration. So bringing this one up, we have um, 5 adapters I want to use on this. The first 2 I reserved for cluster for NetApp. So the next 3 will be for 1 for management, the remaining 2 for storage. So let's say that's like storage 1. I could go, the next one is for storage 2. But if I go back, sorry, yeah. So let's go back. So we have storage 1, storage 2. So storage 1 is connecting here. Storage 2 is going down, which is exactly the way you have it in the real world. So I could go, so storage 1 is going here, and this one is going here. And I could just do the same thing. So again, just whatever I have in the topology, just recreate that here. So it may take a while, but it's going to take over the link to this device. Could go, so that one is over there. So I could go this one, fast Ethernet 2.0, going over to this guy here. Yeah, and then same thing, this one going over to this guy here. And then a similar thing for the virtualization infrastructure. So let's say, okay, I go for this one also. So this one connects here, and then the other connection goes down here. I mean, if you want an infrastructure, you probably have 2 connecting each, so that even if a single cable fails, you have redundancy at that level. That even if a single cable fail, it doesn't necessarily mean there will be like instant failover. So that if this cable, for example, something were to go wrong and this port or this cable were to fail, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna lose um, this one completely. You still don't lose it completely because the switches can still go here and talk to him. But it also does not mean that there will be failover scenarios instantly. So this one connects to this. Um, and the other one connects down there. And it may just take a while to complete again, as we mentioned. And similar thing here. And then similar thing here. And then the only thing for me to connect is the management platform. So the management platform, I don't want them connecting to like the main core infrastructure platform. So they have their own separate switch that they are connected to. So I could go management card here, in this case Ethernet to connect to this guy. So that's where I'll be connecting to do the management. But for this one, let's get rid of this guy actually. Let's go delete access switch. Let's use this one. Let's name it access switch. So change the host name. And let's change this one, it's just the Ethernet switch. Okay. So I could go Ethernet 2, which is my designated management port here. It's connecting to this one. Just my management port for all of them goes to this guy. So But actually, here's another thing. Because because we're talking about learning like enterprise level learning, so I can delete this. So I can have two. There's nothing stopping me from having two. So I could go. But have let's have another one. So I'll change the host name. I'll call this server access switch one. Now change this one to client access switch one. So this is the access switch for my server. This is the access switch for my client. And then at the end of it, because we're talking about enterprise level stuff here, is that all this will be going into a core router somewhere. So we could even decide to even make it like way much more complicated and say we have a core router, two core routers down here, but let's just pause that one for now. For the client access switch, let's say there's a server access switch that these guys are using, and that's what they connect to for like their management port. So 2.0 connects to that for management. So in this case, it's not just separating that out in a logical on the logical um, level, but also even on the physical level. So we could decide to just separate them on the logical level. There's nothing bad with that. So, and then we're going to have these two switches also connect together. Actually, let's go for the last ports, 14 and 15. 15 to 15. And the reason why we're doing that is now dragging all this out, making it all clear to an extent. What we're trying to achieve with that is if this guy fails, this guy can still come down here and can still reach this guy this way. And it's the same way. If this guy fails, this guy can still go up here and still reach this guy this way if he needs to. So it doesn't only have this route to reach this guy. And if this one wants, I mean, there's lots of redundancy at this layer. It could come and reach this guy through this way. It could come and reach this guy by coming down here. If this link were to fail, it could come down here and go back up that way to reach this guy, which is what you have in the enterprise. And what we could do, so let's connect this other one finally. Let's connect our domain controller to this guy. And then here's the thing that we'll do. Now that we'll have all this, actually I'll delete this client access switch and this client device. Delete them for now. We can bring them back later. And then I could go and just start everything. And I want to see what the activity will be on my SSD. So I could go here and click start. And it's going to start all these devices. Let's see what's going on my device. Look at that CPU. Yep. And it's going to be starting on my devices one after the other. So in other words, VirtualBox has taken over all these machines and it's going to start all of them one after the other. It's going to start my ESX host. It's going to start my NetApp filers. My disk doesn't seem to be struggling at all. Oh, okay, maybe the other disk. That's my SSD. It's not struggling at all. So that's good. CPU is high, but yeah, it's all looking okay. Okay.
Boot storm.
So it's all looking okay. So look at that. So now I have my NetApp devices there. And then here's the thing is that this is my NetApp device. This is my NetApp filer 1. This is my NetApp filer 2. This is my ESX server 1. This is my ESX server 2. This is my domain controller. I have all these things connected to real Cisco routers and switches, which I can connect to their console here and connect to the console of this one. Connects to the console of this one. And I can configure everything like you would in an enterprise. And I could do VLAN between this guy and this guy. I could create, like you said, I could create 15 VLANs on this guy and pipe them into this guy. Now, if you do that in VMware Workstation, there's no way you'll be able to get VLANs to work. If you do that in VMware Workstation, except you have a real hardware devices. But in the absence of having real hardware devices, here's a good alternative to having enterprise level infrastructure for your practice. If I wanted, I could bring a real Juniper firewall in here and put like boundaries in between different networks. If I want, I could get all manner of. So for example, we use Sophos UTM at work. So I have my infrastructures in GNS3 with Sophos UTMs and real Microsoft servers and all that kind of stuff. And one other advantage to this, which I know you have already seen, is that once we begin to like play with this, not in this one because we're almost out of time, but once we begin to like play with this now and we begin to configure this, we could, I mean, this improves our learning opportunity dramatically. Because, for example, I could say, okay, I want to understand exactly what's going on when I'm doing like the failover, the LSCP failover, link aggregation. Let's say if one of them were to fail, I want to understand what exactly is going on. And I could just go right click on this link and click start capture and click OK, and it's going to instantly look open Wireshark for me, and it's going to start capturing what's going on this particular link. And I could look at it and say, oh, okay, this is what's going on. Whenever this link fails, this is the keep alive message that this device will send to this device, and it's going to send five of them. And after it finishes sending five of them, if it doesn't get any response, then the client will trigger and says, I'm taking over now. See, and the advantage is you can see things that you cannot see like with normal Wireshark, because, for example, you're seeing spanning tree protocol on the switch level, which normally, how are you going to install Wireshark on a switch or even except they have their own separate capture tools, or if they are Linux appliances, you can use TCP dump. So like Cisco Discovery Protocol, DTP, PACP, and I can see all these different protocols and see their packets and see what is going on within here. And this have you, so going back to this, I could go back and say, oh, here's my NetApp. Okay, NetApp says, this one says, it panicked. Okay, press any key to reboot. Let's reboot it. So let's go to the other one. NetApp 2. Okay. So NetApp 2 is still loading. And yeah, so I've rebooted that one. Let's go to my ESX servers.
Like your file system's full.
Yeah,
Like NetApp, you don't have provision enough space.
for that one. Yeah, let's see. When missing because of the dark could be written to it. Yeah, file system full. I think I've seen this error message before. I think it's something to do with the simulator. Yeah, I think I've seen this error message before. Let's see that the other one is starting though. Yeah, so this was still starting, and here's my ESX, my first ESX box. I can log into it, give it an address, and I can just go back to my domain controller and just manage all the devices from here. So I'm having this ESX server connecting to this NetApp filers where I can practice all manner of technologies or features that these two platforms provide. So that was the thing that I just wanted to mention, that just right from the beginning, because in whatever labs I'll be doing relating to this is what I'll be using. Because I probably don't have like the space in my house and all that to get like physical devices for all of them. But it doesn't mean that if one for any reason cannot get physical devices, if you can get just one physical device that have enough resources, which 24 gig of RAM is enough, and with SSDs, it's fine enough, because once you have SSDs, you can minimize the RAM. You don't have to use 6 gigs of RAM. You can minimize the RAM because the storage will make up for the lack of memory, because the storage will be exponentially faster than just spinning disks. And then you can still practice, all the technologies that you need to practice right from here.
So I have a question, but I can ask you afterwards.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
After you're done recording. Are you recording right now?
Okay. After the recording. Okay, yeah. So I can pause this one for now. So 1 minute. Let me just check all these. Make sure they're coming on.
Does your chat window show up in the recordings?
No, it's
Okay.
not showing up here. Come on, come on. Um, and then actually I could go. So let's see my storage. Okay, yeah. So that
Well, the other thing is,
yeah.
so like I think a friend of mine,
Mm.
he's the community manager at CBT Nuggets.
Yep.
He sets up. You can set GNS3 up. You can mix real hardware with
Yep.
virtualized hardware.
Yep.
That's what you were saying earlier about like your Sophos UTM or whatever.
I know. So if, with the Sophos UTM, it's virtual too. So that's why I was saying that. For example, I didn't need to like get the physical Sophos UTM. I could have a virtual Sophos UTM here if I wanted to, which is why I virtual, I just pin them up. I even think if I go under my virtual box, I think I had a template for Sophos UTM before. Yeah, maybe not here anymore. But yeah, if I okay, maybe not under virtual box, maybe under yeah. So yeah, so that's my Sophos UTM here, and it's all virtual, and I can install it on VirtualBox also. And
Right.
same thing with a lot of these, and then that just allows me to like, do everything without the physical hardware.
Right.
Yeah.
You can answer the question in chat later if you want.
Ah,
But
okay. Yeah. So I answered that. Yeah, I answered that. I answered that. Yeah, no problems. So we just wait for all these to.
but
So
no, what I was asking is, can you integrate a mix of virtual and physical hardware?
yes, you can.
So I know, like, I think, yeah, Jack, he has a rack of, Cisco gear that he uses, but then
Hmm.
to, he uses GNS3 to connect some of the devices and then to add more nodes to supplement his topologies.
Yeah.
Like, say he has one router and one switch
Hmm.
that are physical, then he can add more nodes inside of GNS3.
Yeah. Yeah. You can. So the reason why I'm providing this one, or the reason why I wanted to mention this one is because I know that, for example, when we start uh, doing regular hangouts on this, we've started already. So that will be at least once. So my goal is at least once every 2 weeks we meet to discuss VMware virtualization technology. We just go study about it, then we come together to discuss and learn from one another. But it's for people that don't have the physical gear, but maybe wondering how do I get, because for example, when we start getting into this, we start talking about things that you've also made reference to. When we start talking about, your port groups, and you're talking about VLANs, but how do we demo that, at home? Because we know we can demo on a production environment. How do we demo that at home? Do we necessarily have to go buy a physical device? If you can, yeah, go ahead. Nothing bad with that. But if you can't, there's another alternative
But
where,
you can mix the two. Like, for example, I have my own NAS, and then I have my two HP servers,
yeah,
and then I have a bunch of simple switches.
yeah,
So I can uh, expand upon my physical investment, and I can still move those devices. I can import those into GNS3 somehow.
yes, you can. Yeah,
So it's like I had to test up a 3 node cluster. So I had my two physical ESXi servers, and
hmm,
then I had my third virtualized one inside of VMware Workstation.
yeah,
So
yes,
it presents as a third one. I can have my, say, uh, domain controller inside of VMware Workstation,
yep,
and then I can
absolutely.
I can use SSO and PSC and all of that stuff on there. Plus, I can set up DNS, because when you set up a VCSA, you're supposed to have working DNS.
Yeah,
I
oh,
first thing I did was built my VMware Workstation Pro, uh, and then put a domain controller in there, and then I put the VCSA on one of my physical boxes, and then everything talked together. So I
yeah,
didn't know if with GNS3 if you can uh, integrate physical and virtual.
yeah, for sure. So one of the things that I know I've done, or even here's another good learning advantage that this can provide. For example, you have this Synology um, storage at home, right? the Synology storage
I
bus.
have a 412 or a 413 here,
Yeah,
and then I have the 2416. Like the last two numbers, I think are their year releases. So
yeah,
the 2416 is it's a 12 port uh, or 12 bay,
yeah,
and then my 413 or 412 or whatever, it's a four bay. So they run the same operating system.
yeah,
Just the 2416 allows for more. Like I only have one port on my 413, but my 2416 has four ports,
yeah,
so I can make different. I can make my different storage networks,
yeah,
and I can. So that's why I was trying to aggregate, use LACP on there when I was using NFS. NFS only allows one TCP connection to the share,
mm-hmm,
and then iSCSI allows the multiple paths.
mm-hmm,
So, uh, and then plus, my one at work has the VMware plugin for the VAI.
mm-hmm,
So I
yeah,
can I can do plus my machines at work. I have 128 gigs, and at home I have like 64 gigs.
yeah,
And then the ones at work have 6 cores, and then the ones at home have 4 cores. So
yeah.
it's just
Or here's another advantage of that one is this one. So, for example, okay, you've got your storage platform at home. Let's say you move to a work now that now they use NetApp or they use EMC in a cluster. Does that mean you have to go get a NetApp physical um, filer to be able to, get used to using NetApp storage with your physical VMware servers that you have at home? No, you don't need to go get. So you could just set up um, your NetApp storage on VirtualBox. But then if you now want to be able to use things like VLANs and LACP with them, you could just throw that into GNS3 with them and connect that to your physical environment. So now, you can use your existing environment, physical environment, to learn NetApp and EMC if that's what they begin to use wherever you're working without needing to buy like the physical NetApp filers or whatever. So, but yeah, so I think that's where we'll probably pause for now. So I'll still carry on because I want to, because I'll save this one and this what I'll be using going forward. So I'll save project. Okay, wants me to stop all the notes. So when I stop all the notes, I'll save this project, and then we'll pick up when we start discussing like all the topics one by one, and I'll answer your question now. So yeah, so I'll stop the recording now.